All right, I've picked another card out of a little My Ex Trash Talk therapy game. And Tom, I have a question for you. In one word, the type of person I'm attracted to is...
Caring.
Oh, that's nice.
And to expound on the one wordness, I seem to fall for women that work in helping others, I suppose. Occupational therapists, speech therapists, those kinds of, and that's what they do for their job, and that's their endeavor. They help others. So
Beautiful.
caring.
Beautiful. I love that.
Elizabeth Best.
Funny.
Funny's your answer.
I know, and quite often it leaves me stuck with cocky bastards because they're just got banter and that's all they've got.
That's it.
But I always went for the class clown kind of person.
Yep,
so,
no, that's fair. And
yeah.
that would probably be a pretty popular answer, right?
Yeah.
Funny seems to be the a common one. Very good. Just in one word, funny and caring.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. And look, now that you said caring, I'm like, shit, that probably should have been mine.
Benefit of going first, Elizabeth.
But it's honestly the first word that came into my head when I picked up this card, because if we can't have fun together, I just kind of go, what's the point? Like, they don't have to be a comedian dishing out one-liners every 2 seconds, but
Yes.
I want someone who can have bants with me and is fun.
Is it fun or funny? Maybe you want fun. Maybe
it's like a general silliness, but
Yes.
also mature at the same time. But that's not one word, Tom. You see, I want too many things.
Yes, too many rules.
Welcome to
There
Ghosts
you
of Boyfriends Past. I am Liz Best.
And I'm Tom Harris. Hello.
It is one of our main episodes, which means we have a guest.
Yep.
Our guest today is a Brisbane author, poet, podcast creator, former radio personality, J.M Donellan.
Come
Josh,
on down.
Hello.
welcome. Now, tell us a little bit about this resume of yours. Author, what have you written that people might be able to check out?
Well, I released 2 books last month, which is an insane thing to do.
2 books in
ever
1
do it.
month?
Yeah, it's
what an overachiever.
I wrote them 2 years apart, but they're through different publishers, and they just kept moving their schedules further and further in alignment. So that was pretty funny. So I'll never do it again.
It's
but
like
I
the
released,
month of Josh, the month of J.M. Donellan.
Yeah. So yeah, last month I released Rumours of Her Death, which is a surreal literary thriller, working on a film adaptation at the moment.
That's so exciting.
And then I also released Lenore's Last Funeral, which is a gothic mystery dark comedy about a professional mourner.
That sounds hilarious.
It's pretty
I will look out for both of them. In fact, I've got a little press copy of Rumours of Her Death before me, and I am very excited because this is actually one of my most read genres.
Oh, nice.
So I'm very excited to have a flick through when you're gone.
And you mentioned dark comedy as well, and that's such a wonderful avenue to sort of play with and explore.
It's my favourite kind of comedy.
Blood and laughter. You put those things together, it's a good time. You know?
Absolutely. A little bit of dry wit in there as well. Perfection.
But Josh, the author, has found himself on a little relationship podcast. This one, Ghosts of Boyfriends Past, where we tell stories about love, romance, dating, sex gone by sometimes. So you're in the building for a reason.
Yes.
And I assume there must be a story or two coming down
I thought this was
pipeline.
conversations with... No, I'm sorry.
No, sorry, we're not here to interview you. You have to share a story
Okay, got it.
or you can leave.
Okay, no, that's fair. That's legit.
Easier options.
That's fair. I thought I would tell a pretty fun / heartbreaking story about an international romance I had. I may have a problem. I had 4 long distance relationships, which is too many.
That's
the wrong
like
amount.
1
It's the
is
wrong amount.
difficult,
Yeah.
right? 2 is folly. 3 is insanity. 4 is wrong.
Because I travel a lot and I'm a hopeless romantic. So.
Right. Look, I can't fault your motives,
Yeah.
but insanity.
So I want to tell this particular one takes place across 4 continents. And it's a pretty wild ride. So
4 continents.
Okay.
There's only 7 on the bloody planet.
So the majority of the continents are covered. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, well, look, we've got to do the rules because that's what our lawyers tell us that we have to do.
Yes, and new readers keep trickling along to this show week in, week out, so it's for them. Some of you have been listening for 4 years now.
Thank you
can
so
just
much. We
switch
love
off-
you.
yeah, switch
We
off
also
for
love the
30
new
seconds.
ones, not just, But the rules, okay, so the first rule is that we're going to have you come up with an alias for anyone that you're talking about. I would suggest not coming up with one that starts with the same letter as their actual name because I made that mistake and I couldn't stop picking Rule number 2, Tom.
When you, if those of you at home who figure out who Josh is and who they're talking about today, if you piece it together, well done to you. But we're not going to have any sharing of real names, mobile numbers, places of work, nothing, no sharing or doxing of private information.
It's not what we're about. We're about getting stories out there that make you maybe laugh, might make you cry, and we all learn a little thing or two. We're not about shaming anyone for doing anything. We're just about storytelling, living, laughing. I don't know. I'm not going to say live, laugh, love. That's disgusting. I hate myself.
We are kumbayaing up in this bitch, and we need an alias.
Yes, we did that one. No threats.
No threats on the microphone. As soon as our producer stops recording, threat away. But for now, if you can just for half an hour, no threats, thank you very much.
Okay. I might threaten if someone's horrible, though.
Okay.
Just under my breath. No, okay, the lawyer said no. Sorry. I won't threaten anybody this time. Okay, Josh.
So hard.
Situate us. Yes. Where does this story begin?
All right. So I was making my way through India and I was having a spectacular time. I did a little bit of volunteer English teaching and I had a very brief but very delightful travel romance. And we parted ways. Well, that was lovely. Great to meet you. Have a good time. Probably never see you again. It was wonderful. Mm-hmm. Travel romances, the best. So I left that little group I was working with and I met up with my best friend and we traveled through the Himalayas and it was all very striking and spectacular. Yeah, wow. We went to this gorgeous little village. The name escapes me, but it's famous for these landscapes that look like a lunar landscape, except they have monasteries on top of them. So it's really striking and beautiful. It's spectacular. So we're trekking through there and we got to the village quite late and so all the restaurants were closed. So we found the only place that was open that was just someone's house where they also served food. And we went in and we were like, we are starving. Do you have food? And like, yeah, no problem. So we sat down, we ordered the one thing on the menu, which is momos, which is great because momos are the best.
What are momos? I don't know.
They're like little dumplings.
Oh, yeah, okay, so delicious.
So we sit down, we're chatting, and this woman comes in and we start doing the traveler back and forth. Everyone knows the questions, right? Where are you from? Where have you been? I love that jobs don't come into it when you're a traveler. It's not very important.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's just like, where are you from? Where have you been? How's your trip been so far? Tell me something where it's happened. We have that whole chat. The meal takes, without exaggeration, 2 to 3 hours to show up, which is funny but fine. So we're chatting to this person, Ivy, and she's incredible. She's a former ballerina, former neuroscientist, current political science major.
I'm sorry, that's incredible.
It's annoyingly impressive, right?
Yeah,
like,
thank
the
you
rest
for
of us
using
look
that
like
word.
chumps,
Okay,
you know?
Yeah.
Dial it back a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's incredible. She's very funny, very smart, very fascinating. We talked to her for hours and hours. We finally get our food. We finish, and then my friend's like, I'm tired. I'm going to go sleep. I was like, all right, well, we're going to keep hanging out. So Ivy and I go up to this hilltop, and we watch the sunset, and I've just finished this little travel romance. She's in the process of breaking up with someone. I got to go back to America and break up with this guy. It's not working out, but, blah, blah, blah. I was like, yep, cool. So nothing romantic happens, but it's a very before sunrise situation.
Right.
We're there for hours talking. I think we might have stayed up most of the night. So we talked. Next day, she's going back to New York to break up with this guy. So we had this amazing connection, swapped emails, parted for a while. We became really good pen pals, which I super recommend. I know we're in the digital age. Write some letters.
Like old school pen pals,
yes.
like full on handwritten letters.
We swapped emails, but I was like, you know what? Like, I don't know when I'm going to see this person again, so let's go slow and low tech.
There is something to be said about a little thrill of getting something through your letterbox that isn't a fucking bill or something.
I
bullshit.
cannot remember the last time that I have received something in an envelope. Like parcel's different, but something in an envelope that hasn't been a bill or some kind of solicitation.
I think the fact that it's rarer now makes it more special. Yep. You know, this was some time ago, so it was still rare-ish, but now it's a rare thing indeed. But anyway, so we had this pen pal thing going on. It was pretty great. And then a couple of years passed, I believe. She came out to visit with her boyfriend at the time. She came to Australia and they stayed with me. And I remember thinking, this guy's okay. He's cool. He's all right, but
not for her.
She's in a different league. This is working. Anyway, so we hung out and that was all fine. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then they went back home. She split up with that guy. And then I had my big North South America trip planned. And the first stop was going to be New York. I was like, I'm going to go stay with Ivy, if that's cool. And she was like, yeah, come stay with me. That'll be cool. She meets me in the train station. We talk. Go to bed the first night. I got in quite late. The next day, we went out to some bar. And then it all happened very quickly. It was very intense, very romantic, very rapidly. It was wonderful. It was lots of dive bars. Plus, it's New York. You know,
New
there's
York
just everything happening all the time.
It's one of my favorite places in the entire world.
I mean, yeah. It lives up to the rep. I'm going to say it.
It does.
It's got a rep and it deserves it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there in winter. It's like pre-Christmas time. All the lights are up. It's pretty.
That's my favorite part. I've been there twice pre-Christmas and
Yeah.
it's just so romantic.
Yeah.
Like you're walking down the streets, everything's lit up. There's giant baubles over here and there's, Christmas light displays on different buildings and it starts snowing and then you're just like, what is this rom-com that I'm in? What is this rom-com?
I think it's actually illegal to not fall in love when you go there at that time. Yeah. I think there's laws
I
against it.
didn't because I've got resting bitch face and no one talks to me when I'm traveling. Yes.
But we did that, and she was like, "Do you want to go see Salman Rushdie talk tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do that."
yeah.
We went to see like amazing jazz bands. We went to Birdlands. Like, I'm a big jazz nerd, so it was very, very special for me. We were the youngest people there by about 30 years, so it's all great.
This is a manic pixie dream girl.
It's
right?
insane. No, she's fab. So we go out one night, and I'm wearing a hoodie, and I wanted to really impress her friends. I was like, I know this is only going to be a brief thing, but I still want to impress her friends. We go out, and they're talking about books. They're all really, big readers, which is great. And one of them is talking about how her favorite book is To Kill a Mockingbird. And I pray that people listening to this will have a moment like this at some point in their lives. I unzip my hoodie. Underneath, I'm wearing a To Kill a Mockingbird t-shirt.
Fantastic.
Which is why you should wear some kind of band or book or film t-shirt.
Just in case.
Every day of your life. Just in case that scenario happens.
You can demonstrate how cool you are to the right people.
It was highly chef's kiss. So that was great. So we had this heady whirlwind kind of romance. A couple weeks finishes up. I was like, well, I guess I'm going to do the rest of my trip. I'll see you later. This has been pretty cool. So I go off to Colombia, and Colombia's incredible. I love Colombia very, very much. And she had a trip to Argentina planned. And so I go to Colombia. I'm staying in this weird hotel with a tortoise that just walks around the place. I open my door to a tortoise, just walk around. There's this dude called Super Mario who's trying to sell me drugs every day on the street. Like
Super
every
Mario,
day.
tortoise.
Yes, that's right.
That all tracks.
Every day. And my favorite thing, my friend was staying in a hostel around the corner. And it was coming up to New Year's. And the blackboard says, like, this week's entertainment, open mic night, some crappy pop band, Shakira. And so everyone's like, okay. And people were like, could it be Shakira? She is from Colombia. And I was like, do you think that Oasis play your local crappy London pub because they're from England? That is an insane statement. So it turned out to just be a drag queen doing Shakira songs, which ultimate outcome. Incredible.
Yes.
Anyway, so I'm having this wonderful time, but I'm hurting like hell. My heart is aching.
Oh.
And we start messaging back and forth. And I was like, what if I meet you in Argentina? What if we do that?
That's so romantic.
And so she said, okay, let's do this. So I drop out of my Spanish course. I had learned no mucho, unfortunately. Necesito más practicar. But anyway, I decided I'll go and do that instead. So I head on down to Argentina. And that's, again, magical. This whole thing is so heady and crazy. She can speak fluent Spanish, which is basically magic to me at this point. And we have an incredible time. But that time also ends. So then I'm back to Australia. I don't know if you know much about geography, but Australia is a long way from New York. It's like time-wise the worst possible time.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It
time
is.
difference,
It is
distance.
awful. I have to drug myself to get through it frequently.
Yeah. So it's crazy. And I think, I was watching Past Lives recently, which is an incredible film. And it's set in there's a section set in the same time and the technology they use is the same. So like Facebook looks the same and the Skype dial tone is the same. I just remember that era so much because the stress of trying to keep things alive via not great technology at the time was pretty heartbreaking and tough. So we're talking about it and she was like, okay, we'll figure this out. I'll come out to Australia.
Now, Are you guys an item, or is this just what is the?
Well, I
is
think-
there a
I
label?
guess by this point,
Does it need
this
one?
is long distance relationship number 3 for me. So I guess by this time, people are like, oh, here we go again. This frickin' guy.
So
over
this is the one that I
here.
labeled insanity.
Yeah.
Number
Which
3.
again, fair. People always say like, is it a good idea or a bad idea? And I always say, well, I don't know. It depends on the people. Relationships depend on the people in the relationship.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. 3 it's too many. It's
Yeah.
not healthy. I have an issue. Okay, so she comes over. It's incredible. We go to the beaches, go to the rainforest. We have a drunk history party, which we invited everyone to. So it's like you dress as your favorite character from history, and we all drunk. It was really good. So we have the best time. That's all great. She goes back to America again, heartbroken again. That's the thing with long distance, right? It's like repeated heartbreak.
It's like death of a thousand cuts, right?
Yeah, it's just repeated heartbreak. The flip side of it is that longing and angst. This is one of the things I love about being an artist, and I always say people forget about whatever kind of art that you do. Any suffering or pain that you have is just grist for the mill, right? So like it sucks. It's
We say
painful,
that on this podcast
but-
all the time. Every bad date's a great story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is an amazing thing to have in your back pocket. Any bad experience I have, I sit there and think this might be going in a story or at least a little kindling.
Yeah.
And that's pretty magical, you know?
Yeah.
That's useful.
Also, like with the whole little mini heartbreaks, you've also got repeated honeymoon periods.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true.
Like other people that dies out, you guys get to have it's back on, honeymoon,
Yeah,
and then
it's-
heartbreak.
It's real peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
Real peaks and valleys. So we figure out, okay, we're going to do another trip, I guess. Let's go back to the place where we met. Let's go full circle. We'll go back to India. So we meet up there. She's doing her thesis on the partition in Pakistan and India.
Yep.
So we go to Srinagar and we live for a little while on a houseboat there, which is fantastic. We'd wake up to the call to prayer every morning. We lived on a houseboat. We'd have to get ferried back and forth to the mainland. The main guy who's in the area who ferries people across, who's around our houseboat the most, falls in love with her very quickly. You don't meet a lot of very pretty American women with fluent Urdu. And so,
Yeah.
that happened real fast.
Very
And-
pretty former ballerinas.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
What are the
Rocket
other
scientists.
qualifications?
Yeah. So she had fluent Urdu, and I even gave up. This guy would say good morning directly to her and nothing to me.
Oh.
I was like, all right, we're doing this.
Yeah, right.
What else am I going to
Push
do?
him overboard. That's what you do.
I can't buy a jet ski, so this is happening, I guess. So we have our time there, and then we leave from Srinagar to Leh in Ladakh, which is this incredible part of India that's right at the top of, right next to the Tibetan border. So it's a lot of people of Tibetan descent. It's mostly Buddhist. There's like a 900-year-old castle. It's spectacular. We get in the Jeep with some Irish teachers who've been there and like, oh, we've been going crazy. You know, we've been in this town. There's no drink to be had in this whole place. We've been going absolutely crazy. I hate to perpetuate a stereotype. This is a real thing that happened. And I was like, oh, how long have you been here? They're like, 5 days. I was like, well, okay. So we get in the Jeep. It's 16 hours from Srinagar to Leh in this packed Jeep. I immediately get gastro like as soon as my butt hits the seat. It kicks in real hard.
Oh God.
And again, looking at the silver lining, no trip I ever have will be more painful than that, right?
That's
like people are like,
butt-wrenchingly
oh, I
painful.
went on trip and our plane got delayed by 2 hours. Like, oh, world's tiniest finally in. Like once you've done the Jeep with the gastro, that's it. That's the worst one ever.
No.
So it's 16 hours. As we're pulling into Leh, I remember the dude had a CD player in his car, which was outdated even for the time, and also the roads are real bouncy, so it's not real helpful. I can never hear that song. You know the Britney song that starts, "It's Britney, bitch."
Yes.
So he's playing this, and it just keeps looping on that. It's Britney, bitch. Like again and again and again and again.
Do you think of it every time you spew now?
Yeah. It drove me like right into
Britney,
hysteria. I'm happy she's doing well these days, but
Is
that
she
was
though? That's
well,
up for debate.
Yeah.
out of the conservatorship. Let's not get into it.
Yeah.
I'm not a pop culture.
Better, maybe?
Yes.
So we wake up in the morning and the sunlight's streaming down on our faces because we realized the hotel we'd booked into just had a hole cut like directly in the roof.
Oh.
Like the sun just came
Okay.
straight
cool.
through that. So then we have some more time together. We go trekking. We're trekking through the Himalayas. It's full circle. It's where we met. It's all very magical. We decide we're doing this thing. It's happening. It's real. One of us is moving. We're doing this thing.
Wow.
So, which is what you've always got to do in long distance. That's a tricky thing. It's either you move, I move, we both move. what
Or
are we
it's
doing?
over.
Is the end
Yeah.
game.
So it's got to be one of those.
You gotta have a clock on that.
Who proposed that first?
I mean, I don't know if I can remember. Which
Or
means
is
probably
it,
me.
Are you
Yeah.
caught up?
Yeah.
You're like, dear God, please let's end this long distance
Yeah.
thing.
I think we were both pretty, I was pretty mobile at the time. Like I'd written just my first book, which wasn't making a great amount of money, but like I was like, okay, I've written something. I guess I can write some more stuff. I got my second book contract in an internet cafe in India. I was like, okay, cool. I feel legit. This is happening. Book 2. This is good.
Great.
Still obviously not going to make any money, but I was like, I can just teach English. That's fine. I can do that wherever.
Yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
It's great. Great job. I'll do that. So I go back home. I start making plans. I take a 1-year contract teaching, and we plan to make it all happen at the end of that year. So I'm
Who's
saving
moving
money. So the plan is I'm going to move to New York while she finishes her degree.
Wise.
I'll
Because
stay
then you
with
get
her
to
for a
live in
little
New
bit.
York for a bit.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a good situation. The plan is she's got a little bit left on her degree by that time. We'll stay there for a little bit, and then she'll go work for an NGO somewhere, and I'll just go teach English wherever she is. So it's not a bad plan.
Yeah, cool. So it's like a life of travel
legs.
kind
It's
of
got
thing.
legs.
Yeah.
So we make the big plans. I save up my money. I start saying my long goodbyes to people. It's been real.
Yep, you're wrapping up your old life. Here we go. Moving on.
Getting ready for Wheels Up. And then, we move through the year. I buy the plane tickets. I convert all my cash, quit my job, move out of my house. I'm staying with my mum for like the couple of weeks before. I'm ready to roll. This is real. It's happening. I've said goodbye. We're up. And then everyone knows where this is going, right? Like everyone knows where this is going.
I'm getting a prickly, uncomfortable feeling.
So the time difference is painful. And again, bear in mind, especially younger listeners, bear in mind that, what was this, 12, 13 years ago, the difference in technology was significant. So you could have video calls, but they were dicey, they would drop out, they were choppy, and that mattered a lot when it's an intense emotional connection.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah, so that made it quite painful. So we could do this stuff, but it wasn't great. It wasn't where it was now. I mean, if the pandemic had happened back then, even worse. Anyway, so the communication starts to fall off a little bit. She's not answering messages and emails as much. I was like, okay, there's stuff going on. It's all right. Don't want to freak out. Let's not freak out too much.
It's a busy time. She's probably really busy setting up for me.
And the time zones. It's
Yeah,
weird.
of course
It's
the
really
time
weird.
zone. She's studying.
Yeah.
How many excuses can we make?
Yeah, there's many. So there's a long gap, like the longest gap there's been yet in replies. Finally hear back from him, like, it's fine, I didn't hear back from you, it's totally fine. But what was happening? Just so I know, just my own personal reference.
But it's totally cool. I'm fine.
It's so cool, but it's like whatever. Like cool.
Okay, so it was actually pretty severe. Her very good friend's dad had a severe heart attack, so she was wanting to be there for her friend, which is great. And then, so she'd been at the hospital. All this was happening. Historical context: Occupy Wall Street is breaking out, so
Yes.
things are nuts right where she is. Like, and she's going to some of the marches and everything as well. So the world is pretty chaotic at the time. This stuff is happening, and she says to me, "Listen, my friend's dad having that heart attack reminded me, like, my dad has a heart condition. He's likely not going to be around as long as he should be. He's got more of a clock on him than most men his age. I want him to meet his grandkid before he goes. So if we are doing this,
Oh, yes.
we need to have a kid quickly."
And you're
Wow.
you're not even you've
You're
not
not even
left
in
the
the
country. Yet.
We're not in the same country. We don't have anything approaching stable income or jobs
You
or
don't
housing.
know
or
how it's like to
literally
live together properly.
We haven't properly lived together. I don't know if I want to have kids at all at this
Yeah.
stage. I'm leaning towards no at this time in my life. So all of these are pretty big concerns. So she was like, if we're going to do this, it's got to be a hard yes. And so I took a little bit of time. I thought about it, and I tried to be a good person. And I came back and I said, I cannot give you a hard yes on this. I don't think it's
Yeah.
right. I don't think you have a kid for that reason. I understand where you're coming from. I think it's very sweet. I know you love your dad. Your dad's a great guy. All of that. I still don't think you have a kid for that reason.
No.
Like, I don't think we're too unstable. A year down the line, 2 years down the line, entirely possible. But I can't say yes to
At
this.
the time, did you say or broach, I think you're doing this for the wrong reason? Did you bring that up in an argument?
Yeah.
You can't say that to someone.
I know.
Though. Like,
I think I may have I'm being kind to myself by believing that I phrased it this way. I think I
Yes.
phrased it as I don't think that would be the right decision. Blah blah blah. But who knows? It's,
Yeah.
I'm probably recoloring that in my brain a little bit. So we have this conversation. It's very painful, very difficult. I feel like it was the right choice. And she was like, "Okay, I guess I'll see you soon." And so I was like, "Okay, sounds good."
What does that mean?
Communication not good for another couple of days. I'm getting towards wheels up. I'm getting towards getting on this plane, and then I got the email, right, like the long email. So I read it. I knew what it was just when I saw the length, right? You know how sometimes when you're having those intense back and forths, whether it's romantic, friendship, whatever, and you suddenly get a big chunk,
It means
it's
they
always
spent
bad.
a long
always bad.
time thinking it out.
The wall of text. I was wondering if even the title of the subject
Yeah,
of
what
the
was the
email
subject
gave it
line?
I
away.
think we just had a thread that was 5,000
okay.
emails
Oh, okay,
long.
cool.
So yeah. So yeah, it was bad. I called her. We had the talk, and she, I think, was out on a street corner, and yeah, it was noisy and it was dropping in and out, and yeah, obviously my heart like just immediately shattered into 50 bazillion pieces, and I just lay there on the floor at the little room I was staying in at my mum's, and I was just completely shattered and broken, and yeah, absolutely agonizing, next level apocalyptic heartbreak. And then I had logistics to deal with.
Yeah,
So then I
like
had to
like
cancel
normal
flights.
breakups. Normal breakups, you just need to deal with the heartbreak most of the time.
Yeah.
But like, holy shit, you have no job now.
Yeah, I got no job. I got no house. It's like a country song. Got no
Yeah,
job.
that's right.
Got no house. Can't go to New York no more. So I had to cancel my flights. I booked internal flights as well as like my big international, and they canceled. Like, don't worry, as long as you use your flight within 1 year, you can still keep this credit. And I was like, I'm not going to America in the next year, you jerks. Like, give me my money back. So just that money was burnt. The exchange money was burnt. So it was a pretty expensive breakup for someone who wasn't living together.
Yes.
So there's all that. Then I had to do that Ben Folds 5 song where the guy's constantly saying he's leaving and he's not.
Yeah.
Then I had to do that. I just started showing up to parties and be like, "Hey guys, remember how I didn't go to New York?" And people were pretty cool about it. They're like, "It sucks." But I felt real weird about it.
Yeah.
Did you in the moment? Did you protect yourself and lie and give different excuses, or did you tell people, "Nope, it ended"?
No,
And here
I
we
think
go"?
I just ripped the band-aid because otherwise you could have the conversation
Yeah.
too many times.
Yep.
I feel like you let people know and then it's
You
pretty...
just need to send out your own long email saying, "Look, this is what happened.
It's pretty
Don't
good.
ask me about it."
It's pretty good gossip, so it went
Yeah.
around pretty quick. But that was all pretty painful. So I'm at pretty much rock bottom. I find a friend who is like, "Look, I got someone moving in like 6 weeks, but you can have the room till then, till you find a house." So I move in with this guy who's very cool. He had no phone, no internet, no TV in his place. It was very monastic. So I move in there. I'm sleeping on a foam mattress on the floor. I had some freelance journalism I was doing. I interviewed Yo Nesbo, the thriller writer, and he was very cool. And he was talking about like how he made it as a writer. And I was like, okay, I guess I gotta just turn my focus back here, try and make this thing happen. I'm sitting on my crappy foam mattress one night reading June, and I look over and a cockroach just like crawls past me, and I just laughed so hard. I was like, "This is it, baby! This is I thought
You're living with the cockroaches
thought
now.
it was so funny. But I remember that actually being a beautiful moment. I have a real strong sense memory of that time and that moment. And slowly I started to put the pieces back together. I moved into a pretty great share house. I got some other work. I kind of got back on track. I wrote the next book and all that. And I think the craziest thing about it that I think about all the time is like, I remember in that moment being like, okay, this is it. This was my big chance. This was the person, and I let it fall apart. That's it for me. I am done. Which is so hilariously naive and so normal. Like, I think it's so normal in your 20s to be like, that's it. That person didn't work out. I'm done. It's never working out for me. It's so hilariously normal and so completely wrong.
There's some. I don't know what it is about your 20s. I don't. You agonize about as your teenager. You're doing all this growing up. Look at me. I'm growing up. I'm moving. And look at me now. And then you get into your 20s, and that's it. Apparently, this is my adulthood life. And then if I meet and break up with someone, that's it. I will never date again.
Yeah.
See, I was
Relax,
the
people in your
opposite.
20s. Relax. You got so much more time.
I went from relationship to relationship to relationship to relationship going, cool, I'm going to make it work out with someone. And then I got to my 30s and went, I quit.
Okay.
And I have
A
quit
little-
ever since.
A little later for some. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess I just tried to put it all back together. It was pretty painful and brutal, but yeah, a very kind of validating visceral experience. And I think about it a lot, sort of referring to what we said at the start. I heard both a writer and a comedian give the same advice to up and coming writers/comedians recently, which was to these people who come out to me like, what do I do? How do I make it? Blah, blah. And they're like, your craft is good. You've worked on this. Your craft is excellent. Your stage command is good. Your grasp of syntax, whatever is good, whatever was pertinent to their disciplines. What you haven't done is got life experience. You are young and smart and capable and don't have a well to draw from. And they like the advice is always, and it is a cliche, but sometimes things are cliches because they're frequently true, right? And so the advice is like, go out, make some mistakes, get your heart broken. And I think it's such good advice. Like really throw yourself out there. Yeah, I'm such a crazy romantic, but I don't regret any of it because it's great stuff to draw from and you grow as a person because of it. And that's pretty great.
That's kind of what this podcast is all about. Hey, like
Yes.
we love listening to all of these stories of times when we've made mistakes because there's always a lesson to be learned from them. And speaking of lessons to be learned, what'd you learn from all of this?
Well, I think the one I just said, and then the other one was 3 long distance relationships is too many, which is why I swore I'd never do it again and only did it one more time.
Only did it one more time. How? Okay. So what was the time between the end of this one and the start of the next one where you went, you know what's a really good idea? Long distance.
Okay, to be fair, I met the next person in Brisbane. And then there was some visa stuff and she had to move away because of that. So it was pretty outside of my control.
So you still
Yeah.
haven't avoided the time question. How long?
It was maybe a year.
Okay.
yeah.
After you quit dating altogether and
Yes.
yet you're back into
Listen.
long distance. No, I'll pay it. It's okay. As long as you met them in Brisbane. Sure, that somehow gets around the loophole of it being wrong.
Yeah, fair point.
I like that we opened up with a what didn't you learn with that one. I've got several.
Okay, go.
Every story is valid is my first one.
Yes.
Or important or interesting or unique. And that's what I've learned on this podcast as a whole, I think. A lot of people meander through life thinking, I don't matter or I'm not interesting, but you are. You're the only person on this. There's 8 billion people on this planet now, but you're the only one with your story, your experience. So it's interesting just because it's unique. Kids, 100% is my note on my notebook. If you aren't 100% sure about having kids, then don't fucking have children. It was brought up in your story about her father maybe not having much time, and wouldn't it be great if she could introduce him to grandchildren? Unless you're 100% yes, fucking don't pursue it. It would be mine. I think we've covered that on this show before.
I'm ah-ahing about that one because I know a few friends who have been very like, oh, I don't know, and then they've had kids and it provided clarity, or like, I think if it's an immediate no, then you know that in your gut and that's not going to change. But I just think that the conversation needs to be had as early as possible before you buy plane tickets to uproot your entire life.
And to be fair, when I met my wife, and we were pretty early on when she was like, I need to know where you stand on kids, which was a very smart question to have
Yes.
early. I was like, I am leaning towards no. And she was like, I need you to be open to it or we can't keep going. And
See, that is an amazing boundary to set at
Yeah.
the start, because
Yeah,
if that is
she's smart.
something that you know that you want and somebody says absolutely not, you can't just embark on a relationship hoping that you'll change them. They have to agree to the fact that they might be open to it. So I think that's incredibly smart of her.
yeah, we got our second kid on the way next year.
Yeah,
So.
so well done. What made you change your mind about that?
So my reasons for no were largely environmental. So largely about contribution to emissions and climate change and everything else. And I guess I heard someone, I think on a podcast, actually talking about how that's a pessimistic approach which undervalues the possibilities of the next generation. And I think that was like a main thing that I thought about. It's like it's looking at the whole world through the lens of our generation and saying, we've done this, we made these mistakes, the next one's going to do that too, and that's insulting to people who aren't here yet. And I thought that was a really interesting framework. And then Hannah, I think also it was so important to her, and yeah, it turned out to be a really wonderful decision for us, and it's been brilliant. But yeah, it's an important one to have early. Yeah, if you're in a serious relationship, you got to get that on the table.
You've got to put it on the table. And then I understand in this situation that there was a life-changing event that clarified things for this Ivy. So sometimes your position will change, and it was great of her to bring that up as soon as the position changed. And I think that probably saved a lot of future heartbreak and fucking around for both of you, that as soon as that came into her sphere as something she knew she wanted soon, she brought that up with you, which I think is really, well done on her part. My lessons were largely similar in that many long distance relationships is insanity. One thing that I did come across is that if you are going to do a long distance relationship, doing really cute things like letter writing, A+.
Listen, I recommend letter writing to someone else in your city. It's just really fun and sweet and nice, and you think more about the communication you're sending. You spend more time with it.
Yeah.
It's more significant. I'm a big advocate of letter
Friends,
writing.
if you've got my address, write me a letter. I'll write you one back. Come on. I'm not going to put my address on this podcast because that's just insanity.
No.
But if you already have it, send me a letter and I will send you some back, and maybe not put glitter in it. I don't know. Who's to know?
Anything's possible.
And I think the other lesson that I've learned is that that one great thing when traveling is that you can have these wonderful romances and flings, but I think we need to apply a little bit of the fuck it travel mentality to every day in our real life. Because can you imagine some of the amazing experiences that we could have on a day-to-day basis if we had the same I'm only here once? Think about I'm only here on this earth once, rather than I'm only in this country once, and you could open yourself up to a whole bunch of really beautiful, amazing experiences.
Yes, it's wonderful advice, not just for relationships and dating, just in your life in general. So say you get 85 years if you're lucky. That's if you're lucky on this planet. So try and make every second count if you can.
And I mean, don't feel the pressure to make every second count, because shit, that's intense. But like sometimes when you're like, I could stay in, or fuck it, I could do this. Fuck it and go and do that. Now, Josh, give us a plug again at the end of the podcast of all of the places that we can find you and your work.
Okay, so I'm J.M Donellan. That's Donellan across the various platforms. So you can find me there. I've pretty much left Twitter because that's on fire, but anywhere else you can find me.
Twitter doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
it's now this X ridiculousness.
X going to give it to you. Can I say that on this? Anyway. So yeah, you can find me across all those things. My main things I've got out recently are the novel Rumors of Her Death and Lenore's Last Funeral. And then I've got a bunch of other things I've done in the past. I've got poetry books you can go check out, other novels I've written, working on the film for this one.
There's a podcast called Six Cold Feet that I feature in season 2.
Yeah, you were great.
That.
Thanks for being on that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And also Miss Mel Zanetti of Bluey fame.
Yeah.
She's now enormous.
I feel like we're all on equal success trajectory. So we're all doing about the same.
We're all going to have Bluey fame. Yep. We're all going to be on the front cover of magazines looking fabulous and being on Jimmy Fallon and all of that Emmy-winning stuff. We're all in the same podcast studio, and that's where all of our careers are headed. I won't hear a word against it. Thank you so much for telling that incredible story.
Thanks for having me.
I think that one thing I've really loved about listening to you is that you have a very much writer's sense of detail and taking in the small, minute things that are happening as the story unfolds in your life. And I think that just makes for such great storytelling. I'm just imagining a cockroach walking past you now, waving at you, tipping its hat as it goes past. But in the meantime, everybody, if you want to guest on Ghosts of Boyfriends Past, if you have anything to plug, if you have a story that you can tell us, if you've got something to plug, just make up a story and come and tell it to us, because we'll put you on. I don't vet these things. As long as it's a good story, you can come on here. And you can go to, that's notcanon.com/Ghosts of Boyfriends Past or ghostsofboyfriendspast@gmail.com.
Yes, that's right. And even if it's a small paragraph of a story, send it in anyway, because we have our quickie mini-sodes just for the leftovers, not leftovers, that's the wrong word to use.
No.
That
For the short, sharp and excellent stories that won't take up a full episode, but there's still lessons to be learned and laughs to be had. I feel a bit kumbaya today. I'm not liking that. We can all laugh and love together. Or we can laugh at you because your story is very funny.
We can change the energy if you want. Now listen up, all right? We're charting all all around this planet.
That's true.
Because of you telling your friends and loved ones to listen to the show. Keep doing it. I want more.
Whoa, you're not demanding or anything.
It's my birthday this week of recording, so that would be a lovely birthday present for me.
Look, if you want to send in a review for Tom's birthday, even if it only says "Happy Birthday, Tom," and gives us a certain amount of stars, that's not 1 or 2 or 3 or 4.
But anything else is on the table.
Or share the podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. And look, just always remember the advice that 4 long distance relationships is way too many.